Story 1, it really depends on the cancer and the stage. But do not ever give up hope. Therapies have come a long way in the past 40 years. Story 2, if it was terminal? No. What is done is done. I would not want the rest of the time I possibly have left to be spent going through drugs and radiation and being sick, with my family looking after me, and that possibly being the last memory they have of me. I would rather take some pills to try to be pain-free and live as if each day was my last, making new brilliant memories for them. Story 3. I was diagnosed with aggressive stage 3 colon cancer at 32. At first, I declined all treatment and surgeries. I was given a 60% chance of surviving the next 4 years, so I decided to fight. It was a brutal, painful 4-year battle. That journey left me with 2 medical issues. One of them is fairly serious, and I still spend about a month in the hospital every year. Would I fight again? I am not sure I would. Story 4. No, and I have actually had the opportunity to prove it. A Papa Nicolau smear came back abnormal, and they had to do a biopsy because they were worried it was cancerous. I received 3 different bills from 3 different places totaling over $1,500. It was not cancerous, but they recommended doing it again next year to make sure it had not become cancerous. I just cannot afford to. Even if it did become malignant, I could not afford the treatments or surgery. Story 5. I would not. I could never afford treatment. Also, I would just try to live as best as possible until the end. Story 6. Had a cancer scare last year and lived with uncertainty for about 6 months before being declared non-cancerous. It helped me realize what things in my life I appreciate, what things I dislike, and most importantly, what things I can change. I am now enrolled at a university to get a Master of Business Administration and hopefully a better job eventually. I have spent more time on my hobbies and less time doing things I am not really interested in. If a diagnosis comes, it comes. There are many forms and stages of cancer. I would probably fight most of them for as long as there was hope to win. But if my body stopped helping the fight and the cancer kept growing, at some point I would focus on living as well as possible until the end. Story 7. Large-scale studies have found no strong evidence that a fighting spirit or will to live directly increases survival rates in cancer. An extreme fighting spirit does not prove an increase in survival but can help with quality of life and adherence to treatment. Story 8. If I had support around me, I would fight to survive. If I did not, I would get. Story 9. It depends on the type of cancer. If it is benign and easy to remove, then yes. If it is aggressive, already spreading, and treatment will take years, then most likely not. Story 10. I have 2 parents and a sibling dealing with cancer right now. Surgeries, chemotherapy of all kinds, more surgeries the last 8 years of my life. My mother is terminal and metastatic. She was given 2.5 to 3 years over 3 years ago. My father was told 4 years, and it has been about that. My sibling will have their battle until they die, and they are shrinking the tumors as much as possible. They have had 2 different very rare tumors about 7 years apart. They have all been fighting it. They will continue to because my family needs them. They do not have a choice. Story 11. Not a chance. I was the sole caregiver for my husband as he passed from colon cancer 4 years ago. I would never put myself through that, nor would I want anyone I cared for to have to care for me. I would go have fun while I was still able to function, then pass peacefully in hospice care. Story 12. If it was terminal, I am not sure I would even tell my family. Yes, I realize there is a point where it cannot be hidden, but I would want as much time as possible of normality before it became an end-of-life lifestyle where people were doing things because there was an end date. Story 13. We have a lot of cancer in my extended family. So far, every patient has died within 3 weeks to 2.5 years after the diagnosis. That is why I would live my life as before without chemotherapy or radiation, unless it is a highly curable cancer like basal cell skin cancer. Story 14. Frankly, I think I would just want an expedited, humane death. Treatments to try to stop or slow it seem awful to go through. Dying from it seems worse and incredibly painful. But it may depend on the type and the prognosis too. Story 15. No. I saw my mother pass away from cancer last year and experienced all the doctors and treatments for over 2 years. the toll it took on her and how financially draining it was as well. I would cash out my 401k, sell my house and belongings, and travel until I could no longer physically continue. I would send messages to those I loved and cared about, then find somewhere peaceful to end things. Story 16. No, I do not have any family. No one would really be affected by the loss, so I would just try to make the best of the time I have left. Story 17. I would try natural medicine and lifestyle changes, but I would not leave my family in financial ruin due to medical bills. Are we great yet? Story 18. I have been diagnosed twice with cancer. It is easy. I fight because there is more fun to be had. Life is awesome, and I want as much of it as I can. Story 19. It is a natural instinct to try to survive as long as possible. If it is terminal, I would just enjoy the time I have left and prepare for the inevitable. Story 20. As with many questions, it really depends. Both my father and now my brother have had the same type of cancer. I have done the screenings, negative so far. It is common and only deadly if it spreads. If I got that, I would just get treatment. If it was terminal, I do not know. I would probably try to endure for a bit, but if I felt like things were getting worse, I would probably just go ride my bike off a cliff. Not seriously though, more like giving away non-necessities and going to live in the woods or somewhere remote. Story 21. It depends on my age. If I were under 60, I would fight back because I think I need to live a little more. After 60, I would not fight back because I have lived enough to know what life is. Story 22. I have medical insurance, but it does not cover everything. The problem is that medical insurance does not pay your bills. We need to work for income, but if you work, you cannot do treatment. Story 23. No, probably not. I would rather have my wife live comfortably for the rest of her life than end up in poverty because of medical bills. Story 24. I think I would end my life after making sure my parents are secure. I already have it really hard. I cannot imagine dealing with an additional burden. Story 25. No. My will to live is already small. I am not willingly putting poison in my body to have my immune system, toxic medications, and cancer fight inside me. I am completing my bucket list and driving into the Grand Canyon. Story 26. Cancer is horrific, but if there is a good chance treatment will work, then absolutely. If it is terminal, then no, I am going on permanent vacation and living every day like it is my last, because it will be. Story 27. Too many variables. Am I married? Do I have children? How old am I? How old are they? Do I have a good job? Can I support my family without that job? There are just too many factors. Story 28. No, I would not. I have already made this decision after being found positive for the BRCA2 gene mutation, having most reproductive organs removed, and taking care of a parent who underwent grueling experimental treatments and clinical trials twice. That parent wanted to fight to survive. I do not. No disrespect to anyone who wants to fight. It is just not for me. Story 29. So dependent on many factors: current social, emotional, and financial status, type of cancer, life path history, geographic location and healthcare availability, marriage status, children, current age, and more. This is a personal question that might be answered individually. Therefore, I would turn it back to you and ask, what are the numerous factors that influence this question for yourself? How do those factors affect your answer? Does it seem like a black or white decision? How long has medical science projected you have left in your life? Are you aware that such projections are often unreliable? Story 30. Depends. If it is curable, yes. If it is not, I will survive my remaining days and cherish every minute with my loved ones. Story 31. I live in fear of cancer at 54. Every pain that lasts more than a week, I look it up on Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. I guess this means I value life. Story 32. Absolutely would listen to the doctors and do everything else, but also do what I want on the side, including cheating, to enjoy my life. Story 33. If it is a form that is easily treated, I would go for the treatment. If it was an evasive form where the treatment could take years and end up bankrupting the family, I would ask for palliative care. My mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and chose the palliative care route. I moved in with her and cared for her until she passed a few months later. Story 34. Never had to deeply think about that, but I know a very interesting way a man I knew dealt with it. The doctor gave him a date. The date was a few months after his birthday, so this is what he did. He didn't tell a soul about his illness, but invited everyone he knew and loved to come to his birthday party. He drank, sang, and danced all night and was in the best mood possible. At the end of the night, he personally said goodbye to each of the people who showed up. The next day, he was found dead in his bed. He had taken some type of poison and left a letter explaining everything and thanking each of the people who showed up and celebrated with him the previous night. He said it was the best day of his life and that he had no regrets. He wanted people to have the best memory of him. Story 35. I haven't been in that situation, but I have always told myself I would not do chemotherapy or anything like that. I feel like it just makes you worse, and some people cannot handle it. I don't know. It's all very scary. Story 36. In the early stages where the condition can be cured and you can live a somewhat normal life afterward, I probably would choose treatment. In the late stages, when the only options are to die suffering quickly or die suffering slowly, no. I would go through my bucket list until I could no longer continue, then try to find the least painful way to pass. Story 37. It depends on my age and the prognosis. If I am 100 years old and it is stage 4 terminal, I am probably not going to undergo any extreme treatment. Story 38. I don't wish to be a burden on the world. I would rather cash in my life insurance to ensure those who have to deal with my leftovers won't have to pay a bill. Story 39. It's expensive. What would the aftermath look like? Back to a mind-numbing job for 20 to 30 more years until I die at my desk trying to pay medical debt? I don't know. Maybe it's time to skip to the end. I have no wife or children, so no big loss there. Story 40. 9 times out of 10, no. Since I live in North Carolina, I would most likely end up at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I just could not stand to be in a room looking down at a city I am not allowed to go out to. I do not want however much time I have to be spent getting pumped with chemicals. I would rather let whatever time I have fry my body in silence. Story 41. I've never understood the fight for survival concept. You either treat it or don't. Is there some physical activity that counts as fighting? Or is just getting the treatment the fighting part? Story 42. This is a heavy one, and my answer definitely leans towards fighting. I have seen family members go through it, and the sheer will to live even through the worst parts of treatment is incredible. I have too many things I still want to do and too many people I love. Story 43. This is a heavy one, and my answer definitely leans towards fighting. I have seen family members go through it, and the sheer will to live even through the worst parts of treatment is incredible. I have too many things I still want to do and too many people I love. Story 44. I was diagnosed with stage 3, grade 3 cancer. I fought, but it ruined my life and left my body damaged. Sometimes, on bad days, I wish the cancer had taken me. But mostly, I am glad to see my children grow up. Story 45. I have signed up to be an organ donor and would like my organs to be used. A cancer diagnosis would complicate things. I think I would probably choose treatment, though. That is what my mother and grandmother have done. Story 46. Everyone who is born has a death sentence. Can come at any time and in any place. The answer is to always fight to survive, regardless of the odds. Story 47. I know someone who had stage 4 lung cancer when I met him 4 years ago, and he is still going strong. Someone else would not have survived 7 months without radical surgery that had a sketchy survival rate because it was so experimental. She was in her 30s, and the surgery nearly killed her. She is turning 70 this year. I know many other cancer survivors. It is a personal choice, but anything can happen. For myself, I would make the decision depending on the circumstances. Story 48. I don't want to sound ungrateful or miserable, but if treatment or surgery is offered for free or at least affordable, of course I would take it. At least I would have tried something without worrying about wasting a lot of money or my time. However, if it is expensive and recovery is not guaranteed, what is the point of gambling? That does not mean I would take it lightly. I would probably make the rest of my days as precious as I can. Story 49. Yes, but I do not have a great reason. I just do not want to die. Dying is one of the most terrifying notions to me. I just stop existing, and then what? Well, nothing, oblivion, not even oblivion. I just no longer am. No longer being is an awful prospect to me. I know it will happen eventually, but given the chance to fight it off, I will. I guess if you were to break it down, ultimately I would fight to survive because I am a coward, and facing my greatest fear is terrifying. Story 50. It depends on many factors. That said, if it were a hopeless situation, I would be willing to spend the remaining time under the influence of drugs and perhaps find a scientist working on something potentially dangerous to try toward the end. There are definitely some brilliant but unconventional researchers developing super treatments that are too risky to test, and I would be willing to try if I were in that state. Story 51. The first question should be, could I fight? And the answer is no right now. I do not have insurance. Story 52. If it was treatable with a high success rate, yes. If it is fast, awful, and progressive, no. I would get my affairs in order and end it naturally myself so my family is not stuck with the burden. Story 53. No, I cannot afford it, for one. For another, I'm almost 60 and have lived a very long and difficult life. I am tired and ready. I am very much at peace with the thought of moving on. Story 54. What is the other option? Give up? I would like to be around at least until my children are adults and independent. Story 55. Yes. The longer I live, the more doctors and nurses can learn about how to prevent the same death in children, maybe. My family would help me be cared for properly and pass away peacefully, and I would want them near me until I could no longer be helped painlessly. Story 56. Probably not, but it depends on the location and the treatment I would have to undergo. I have already been through cancer treatment, surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. The treatment was difficult, but the permanent side effects that affect me every single day have been even worse, and there is no way I am adding more permanent side effects to this situation. Story 57. The outcome depends on the type of cancer, how advanced it is, the available treatments, and their effectiveness. Then what will life be like if I survive? Story 58. As someone who has had cancer, you have no idea how you would react or the choices you would make. Treatment for cancer, including chemotherapy, radiation therapy, immunotherapy, and hormone therapy, affects everyone differently. People who have never experienced cancer often imagine being diagnosed and undergoing treatment as a terrible experience, assuming they will look and feel a certain way. In reality, it can be the complete opposite. Story 59. As someone who has been fighting pancreatic cancer for nearly 2.5 years, I think I can honestly say yes, I would. Why? I enjoy life and I am not ready to give it up. I also have people who love me and would be deeply saddened by my departure any earlier than necessary, and I do not want to cause them any unnecessary pain or grief. So yes, I would fight to survive, and I have. I have been through 46 chemotherapy treatments, 10 radiation treatments, and 10 treatments with a clinical trial drug. I am not planning on giving up until I have literally no other choice left. Story 60. Too general. Many types of cancer have decent survival rates. The better question is how good the odds need to be to make it worth undergoing chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery, considering the levels of pain, nausea, and other side effects. No one knows until they understand what they are facing. Simply saying cancer is narrow-minded and shows ignorance of what cancer survival and treatment are like today compared to the mid-20th century. Story 61. I don't know. I am equally uncertain about whether I would or not. I would because of my family and friends. I love them dearly, so I would not want to break their hearts. I would not because I do not see a future for myself. It is hard to find a partner and meet certain expectations at a certain age. If I have no future, then just let me end. Story 62. I am part of the working poor. I work full-time and overtime to make ends meet. It is very unlikely that if I am diagnosed with cancer, I could afford the treatment. My health insurance is through my job, as it is with most people in the United States. My employer only offers preferred provider organization insurance options. This means I pay my monthly premiums and have copays for visits and prescriptions. In addition, for procedures like surgeries, chemotherapy, and hospitalizations, I am required to pay coinsurance. This coinsurance is, according to the policy, 20% of the cost of the procedure. This does not include copays. Health maintenance organizations can be a hassle due to the need for referrals and prior authorizations. However, their copays and procedure costs are fixed amounts, not percentages. This makes procedures more affordable. I work in a pediatric unit in a hospital system. As part of the health insurance, I am required to see doctors who are part of the hospital system. By this, I mean a network, but also literally part of the same system. So I pay premiums through my job to an insurance company, along with copays, that then pays doctors within the same system. To keep your health insurance, you must continue working. Both part-time and full-time workers are eligible for health insurance. Employees who are temporary or as needed are not eligible. If you are sick and cannot work, you will not qualify for health insurance through your job, even if you take short-term disability or family and medical leave. There is a minimum number of hours one must work to qualify for healthcare benefits. Because of these circumstances, I do not think it is realistic for me to seek treatment. I do not have enough money saved or the energy to afford life-saving treatments, live while undergoing those treatments, and continue to work. Story 63. No, I would try to set my partner up with the best life I could before I go. I would try to see if a life insurance policy is possible, gather and price all my belongings to sell or store for later sale, and ensure he has the community and mental health resources available to move on and still be able to love and live a happy life. I have been on the supportive end of being someone's primary caregiver while they fought and passed from a terminal illness. I would not wish that on such a wonderful man. Plus, I really feel like I have failed in this life and wish I could get a redo. I would rather the resources I would use fighting it go to someone who does not feel that way. Story 64. Honestly, I do not even feel like this is a question that would cross my mind. Of course, I would try and fight it. I have a beautiful life, a happy marriage, and 2 beautiful young children. Even if I did not, I would fight for myself. Story 65. Already did, and I'm still here. Got diagnosed in 2022 and received treatment for about 4 months. It was supposed to be 6, but my body did not tolerate the chemotherapy well. It also turned out that I had another condition. I have no reason not to get treatment. After all, I still want to live and spend as much time as I can with those I know and love. Story 66. At 64, I have seen several friends diagnosed with various cancers. In London, we have excellent cancer treatment, but having seen the effects of undergoing radiotherapy and chemotherapy, and not all of my friends survived, I would not seek treatment but would accept palliative care. Since I do not have children or close family, I intend to accept the inevitable. The fighting terminology I do not find helpful. If cancer patients do not recover, is it because they did not fight hard enough? Story 67. As a cancer survivor, yes, no matter the stage, I have seen many people live long lives even with the most severe types of cancer. Story 68. Cancer is not always just about surviving. It can be about keeping your body parts intact enough to function. Hands, feet, eyes, but also tongue, throat, and sexual organs, things that really impact life. I think most people fight without it being a matter of life or death, for the time being. Story 69. No. I am pretty sure that already being in the end stages of kidney failure would prevent me from any kind of treatments for the cancer. I have thought about this a lot already, and my decision would be to just stop treatment for everything and enjoy whatever time I have left on my own terms. Story 70. I will not be able to give up. My dad beat both esophageal and prostate cancer while in his 70s. He never gave up. If I do get cancer, I wish for the strength of my dad. Story 71. In my case, I would want a quick exit from this world. I am single and do not have anyone to fight for. So, give me the means to be put down with dignity like the family dog. Story 72. Just kill me. I do not want to put more pressure on the nurses and doctors. They already have enough. Story 73. My wife died of cancer in her 50s. I cared for her for 2 years while she fought it like a tiger. It was awful. The targeted drugs, the chemotherapy, and toward the end, so many painkillers that it made her a zombie. I told myself I would never put myself through that. A few years later, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. It is about as low-grade as cancer can be, and I have chosen the approach called active surveillance, involving prostate-specific antigen blood testing and occasionally magnetic resonance imaging and needle biopsy to keep tabs on the disease. It does not require treatment at this stage, and at my age, in my mid-60s, it likely never will. If it ever reaches the point of needing actual treatment, I might go for some minimally invasive procedures. But if it starts to spread aggressively and my prognosis is poor, I do not think I would fight it at all. I would want my doctor to be candid about my remaining timeline, so that I could tie up the loose ends of my life and choose an appropriate hospice facility for when the time comes. Story 74. The outcome depends on the cancer and its stage. Stage 1 melanoma on my hand? Sure, no big deal. Stage 4 lung cancer that has already spread to other areas like my grandfather died of? Absolutely not. I would get my affairs in order, go to my favorite river, watch the sunset, take all my blood pressure medicine, then lay back in the water and let nature take its course. Story 75. It would depend on the variables. I have always said I would most likely give up, but things have changed now that I feel I have a reason to live. I know that I am not at all interested in going through chemotherapy. Story 76. I was there because my daughter's boyfriend had recently taken his own life, and I could not bear to experience another death close to her. Story 77. No. Why the mountain of medical bills, taking daily medication to perform basic human body functions, and the constant chance that the cancer returns? No to all that. I would rather enjoy the time I have left. Story 78. I am undergoing chemotherapy for non-seminoma testicular cancer that metastasized. I would like it to be gone so it does not spread. I am receiving a large treatment cycle of bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin, and am only in the first week, so I have not felt too dreadful yet. I think it will be coming. Story 79. To begin with, I will. But if I realize I cannot survive, if the pain becomes so bad I cannot function, I will end it. A quick stab, and I will have the most worthy death I could hope for. Story 80. As someone who survived cancer stage 3 in my left temporal lobe, I believe I can provide an accurate perspective. It was not a matter of fighting to survive. It was simply a matter of course I want to survive, and following the instructions given by medical experts. Surgery? Of course. Chemotherapy? Why not? Radiation treatment? Whatever you recommend, doctor. Another surgery? Let's do it. I was not fighting to survive, which always seemed like a rather silly idea. I was following the process as the medical experts performed their work. Story 81. I was diagnosed in 2023 and had everything sorted within months. Now I am cancer-free. There are many different types of cancer, and some can be treated very easily with surgery alone. I had to have my right lung removed, but I am completely free of cancer now. Story 82. I actually hate the term fighting because it sounds like if you are strong enough, you will win. Like if you die, it is because you were too weak. We do not say that for any other disease. I do not say I am fighting the flu or fighting botulism. Story 83. It depends on what treatment is needed to fight it. I would refuse to have a stoma and would choose death instead. Story 84. It is so dystopian to read the comments about not being able to fight because of the cost of treatments. Story 85, of course. Dying of untreated cancer is not going to be pleasant. A lot is said about chemotherapy and everything, but it has come a long way, and more people are being cured. Story 86. At my age, it really depends on the situation. I would not spend thousands of dollars on treatment for a couple of years. I would not put my family in debt no matter what. If I were much younger, I might think differently. Story 87. I had cancer on my tongue in 2016. Radiation and chemotherapy left me exhausted around the clock during treatment. Driving 25 miles each way for treatments took up my entire day awake on some days. The fight was worth it. Being a retired soldier, the costs were not a concern. The retired military family health insurance and healthcare providers' billing departments managed that. Life is good. Story 88. I might sound very ignorant, but every single member of my family died within months of starting treatment. 3 different people lived for years with certain lumps. As soon as it was diagnosed, they were gone within a couple of months. Story 89. Hell yeah. I can't leave my wife and my dog behind. Even if I find out it is already too late to fix it. Forget that. I am going to look for options, spend time with those two, and go out making memories, living right up until I either survive or die. But I will say, if I absolutely know I am dying, I will take a whole bottle of Viagra before death so I can die hard. Story 90. I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer that has spread to other organs. That was only 3 weeks ago. I am going to fight like hell because I am only 56 and I am not done living. Story 91. There is a section in Everybody by Olivia Lang about this topic. It examines 2 brilliant writers who contextualize their cancer in completely different ways. Susan Sontag and Kathy Acker. Sontag was able to overcome her cancer by deromanticizing it. She did not see it as evil or a curse and did not view it as meaning anything. This gave her the courage to treat it aggressively and make a full recovery. However, in the final years of her life, when the cancer returned, her full embrace of it left her a miserable medical shell. In contrast, Acker rejected chemotherapy and conventional treatment and believed in the spiritual meanings disease can have. Because of this, she took years, possibly decades, off her life, but she stayed active, believing, and optimistic to the end, and died beautifully and comfortably surrounded by friends. Alternatively, you can take a different approach like the character Walter White. Whatever works for you. Story 92. Dying seems like too much of a hassle to me, with all the things you have to do beforehand to make it easier for your loved ones. I think I would fight to live and survive out of spite. Story 93. The outcome depends on the type of cancer and its stage. I watched chemotherapy severely affect my mother and decided I would not undergo it. However, with early-stage cancer, you can usually achieve good results with treatment, so it might be beneficial. Story 94. I was diagnosed with blood cancer in January. I am certainly fighting. I will have a bone marrow transplant next month. I am 50 years old. I am fighting so my wife, children, and parents will not have to watch me die. I have many things I would still like to accomplish. Story 95. I am not a doctor, but I played one on television. I will make that decision with a doctor's advice. I am not taking any brand name drug advertised on television, though. Story 96. The nice thing about a support system is that sometimes, just by existing, it helps you take better care of yourself. Story 97. No, I would consider it as the source calling me back. I used to march around in lightning storms with metal poles and golf clubs in the air, showing that I wasn't afraid of death because I knew it wasn't my time. If I did go, it would be the way I'd want to go. I don't want a human to be a factor in my death unless it's in battle. Otherwise, I want the Creator to be the one who decides. I would enjoy my time as much as possible with my family and try teaching them as much as I could, recording every moment I had left. I would aim not only to teach them that there is no reason to fear the next step in existence, but also to prove it to them by accepting it like a warrior and preparing for it instead of misunderstanding the truth of what is happening. I actually have a message that will help others understand this, and no one needs to hurt others out of fear of taking this next step. I have proven my understanding of the truth, and knowing takes that fear away. As long as my children and family understand, then I can't wait because it only gets better. Story 98. Depends. I was diagnosed with cancer and have reasonably good survival chances. I would like to be around to see the grandchildren graduate from high school. Story 99. I was and I did. If I were to be diagnosed again, I do not know because I would rather not go through chemotherapy again. I never underwent radiation therapy or immunotherapy, so there is that. Story 100. No. I hate my life. My mother passed away, and I have not wanted to live since. I am not going to fight for something I do not want. Story 101. Depends on my age, the type, and where it is. If it was at the worst stage with unbeatable odds, I would not put my luck on recovery and would just live my life the best I could. If it was a relatively common one and the doctors believed I could beat it, And if I was still pretty young, then heck yes, I would fight it. Story 102. This is something I have struggled with a lot. I am already on dialysis. If I were to get cancer, would I want to endure 2 highly debilitating treatments just to potentially die young and exhausted? Story 103. That would depend. My brother had cancer and was diagnosed at stage 4 with a prognosis of 6 months. They told him he could have experimental chemotherapy, but he would be sick during the 4 to 6 months of treatment, and it would only prolong his life, not cure him. His quality of life would be very poor, so he decided against it. He died 5 months later. For 4 of those months, his quality of life was okay, considering. It was only the last month that was bad, as expected. If I were in his position, I would do what he did. It's about quality of life if they cannot cure you. If they can, that is completely different, and I would want all the chemotherapy and treatments available. Story 104. Yes. More cancers are survivable than terminal. Even terminal cancers can be lived with for more than 20 years. The idea that cancer is diagnosed and that patients have only weeks to live, as shown in the media, is generally not common compared to the overall frequency of cancer diagnoses. Story 105. If it was early and treatable with no real long-term effects, yes. I live in Australia where this would be covered by public health. If advanced with a high chance of death, I would get a pain pill prescription, quit my job, and go on a world tour. I would come home and enjoy my last days happily medicated in hospice, also covered, seeing friends and watching my favorite films. I have no children, no reason to fight that hard. Life is hard enough. Just let me sleep. Story 106. I would refuse treatment and live the healthy days I have left in peace. This is not medical advice, just my personal choice. Story 107. Depends on the type, stage, prognosis, and my age at the time. I have already undergone treatment once at stage 1. Surgery and radiation resolved it. I was in my early 40s. If I am unlucky again and it is a more advanced stage at an older age, I might choose to accept it gracefully. If it happened again now, I would likely still fight to be here for my loved ones unless the time gained is outweighed by the time required for chemotherapy or radiotherapy. Story 108. Hell no. It would be a blessing. Then I can get out of this pathetic house of a worthless life ahead of time. Now I have to wait 14 more years. Story 109. As an American without health insurance for over a decade and being a single white male, I would receive no assistance. I would consider ending my life, as it would be less painful for myself and my family. Story 110. If I were diagnosed with serious cancer stage 3 or 4, I would not take treatment. I survived cancer once already. I would fight, but with late-stage cancer, I would just go and enjoy what is left of my life. Story 111. I did, and I still am. I had stage 3 renal cell carcinoma for 7 years before it was diagnosed. Despite several magnetic resonance imaging scans of the area at the same company over 3 years due to extreme back pain. You would think I had a medical case, but apparently I didn't. This caused my wife to leave because I had all these issues, but no tests found any problems and no pain management worked, so she thought I was making it up. Turned out the tumor was pressing on nerves in the area, so it felt like back pain but wasn't, so nothing worked. It was found incidentally because I was returning to that same company after everything reopened post-COVID-19, and I sneezed, so they wouldn't let me in. I went to the hospital for an MRI, and they found it on the first attempt. No one believed it was anything serious. I kept insisting until a nephrologist finally agreed to do an ultrasound to silence me. It was a stage 3 tumor. My first appointment with oncology revealed it was attached to the center pole of my kidney, and there was nothing they could do. Within a month, I had my kidney removed along with the tumor. Things were good at first, but the surgery caused me many chronic issues that again no one believed me about. They tried to blame it on anxiety and various other things. After 3 years of an extremely difficult existence, a good doctor finally was able to tell me what was wrong because they were a good person and a rare good doctor without their head up their ass. I started treatment. It's going slowly, but it's progressing. I have no idea what the outcome will be or if I'll always be like this. Why did I fight? I've been through a lot, and I never just threw in the towel. I'm not sure that's in me, but my son was only 5 when all this happened. I'm not about to give up on him. My father died when he was young. He wasn't a good person before that, so I never really had a father, and I know what that's like. I'm not going to do that to my son because this is hard. Story 112. Fight to survive? No. I want to extend my life long enough to arrange for my family and ensure everything is in order. I am not going through the pain and expense of chemotherapy. It is not guaranteed, and it is financially crippling for the people you leave behind. Story 113. It depends. If it were treatable and found early, then probably. Mostly because I would feel bad leaving my dog, and my mom would be sad even though she does not really like me that much. If not, and I was facing a lifetime or long period of doctors in pain, then no. I am alone. I live alone. I am not really excited or worried about the future, and no one would really care that much. I am probably low-key depressed, though. Story 114. Absolutely yes. I have two very young children. They are the only reason I would want to keep going in this world. However, if I were 90, then no. Or if I lost my children, then definitely not. If I never had children, then no, I would not bother. Story 115. My mother is in her last minutes in the next room. She found out a little over a month ago and was given 6 to 12 months by one doctor and maybe up to 8 years by another. It was all over her body, in her bones, and in her blood. She chose to leave the hospital, go home, and die the old-fashioned way. Her boyfriend was diagnosed about 6 months ago with a few lumps in a few places but not as severe. He is taking his chemotherapy and is not feeling great, better since they lowered the dose, but will likely be here for another couple of years. He is sitting next to me. In both cases, I think they made the best choice. My mother did not want to deal with the pain, and her cancer was very painful. She is ready. Her boyfriend was not feeling the pain, and they found the cancer while examining something else. His pain is mild and is mostly from treatment, which appears to be working. Without modern medicine, I would already be dead, so the choice to avoid pain, long hospital visits, and die earlier at home would be a little easier to make. Yet, watching my mom's boyfriend recover makes it more difficult. Story 116. I could either die or burn through my savings account, liquidate my 401k, and take a second mortgage to die a little later. I love my wife and kids too much to do that. In America, just dying is generally the price-conscious option. Story 117. I was 16 and diagnosed with terminal ovarian cancer. I was also told if I did survive, I would never have children. Fast forward. I have 3 teen boys and I am a healthy 41-year-old. Never give up hope. Story 118. I have a brain tumor. I had surgery in 1998 when I was 12. They could not remove the whole tumor, so I am still dealing with it. If I had the choice back then, I would not have treated it. If and when it comes back, I will not seek treatment. Most tumors and even most cancers are very treatable these days, depending on your location and type of cancer. The question you have to answer is whether the quality of your life will justify the pain of recovery. For me, the answer is no. Story 119. In Canada, like some other countries, there is minimal direct personal financial cost for cancer and medical care. There is also medical assistance in dying. These two facts provide patients with clearer options. Imagine being able to make a choice that would not destroy your finances. Imagine choosing the time of your death without fearing the pain that may come. Many people in Canada choose to avoid chemotherapy. Many do not. It is a personal decision. Cancer is not just one problem. There are multiple types of cancer. When you combine cancer and your body, you have a very specific individual problem. Everyone reacts differently. Diagnosis and treatment have improved over recent years. Not all cancers require chemotherapy, and not all chemotherapy requires radiotherapy. Dealing with cancer is not a perfect science, but there are more options today than ever before. Do not be afraid of the word cancer. Saying it will not make you catch it. Saying it will not kill you. Learn about it before you need to. Knowing something about cancer will equip you to help others who may be diagnosed, and it may help you. We all live our lives in different ways and make our own choices. Early diagnosis is the best defense. Get tested if you can. Live each day the best that you can because there is no guarantee that you will have a tomorrow. Story 120. Depends on the prognosis. If I have to suffer through debilitating therapy to extend my life for a few months or a year, no. Also, anything that could allow me to survive but with diminished quality of life would be a no. I have been joking about saving some money for a trip to one of those Swiss clinics just in case. As I get older, it becomes less of a joke. Story 121. Depends on the cancer, its location, and the severity. If it is an easy operation, I will fight it. If it involves a lifetime of chemotherapy, no. I have seen people waste away on chemotherapy. Story 122. I would always play out scenarios in the shower about how I would react if I were ever told I had cancer. None of those scenarios matched what actually happened. I was diagnosed with a rare type of leukemia called mixed phenotype acute leukemia. Essentially, I had both acute myeloid leukemia and acute lymphoblastic leukemia types. My oncology team had never dealt with this before. I did not cry or get depressed. It was just reality. Every single day I asked, what next? I don't feel like I fought. Honestly, I was in a hospital bed for weeks, just trying not to die. I suppose I fought in the sense that I never let overwhelming feelings take over. It was tough enough having cancer, but it was worse knowing my team had to reach out globally to find effective treatments. I knew I didn't want to die, so I was just along for the ride. Online searches gave me the worst odds, but I quickly learned those are not reliable and every cancer case is unique. If I relapse, I don't know if I would handle it as well the second time because I know what to expect, and it is very difficult. I am also grateful to be in a country where the only expense I had during treatment was parking when my husband visited. Otherwise, I don't think I would have coped as well knowing the financial burden it would place on my family. Story 123. No. I am 75 years old. The world is going badly, and I see no reason to take up valuable resources that can help someone younger. It is best to go out quietly. Story 124. Fought like hell the first time through chemotherapy about 10 years ago. However, I do not think I would survive if I had to go through another round now, so I would try to enjoy what is left of my life with my loved ones. Story 125. I was, and I did. I am in remission now, but the fight was incredibly hard, and I am not sure if I would still have the physical and mental strength to go through it again. I live every day to the fullest. I no longer procrastinate. I do things now I never would have done before. Next month, I hope to celebrate my 5th new birthday. Live every day because not everyone gets second chances in life. Story 126. My wife is a radiation oncologist and helps people navigate this often. Many factors contribute to this, including your definition of survival. It does not have to mean spending your remaining time at doctors' offices chasing every possible treatment. It could also mean spending your time with family and friends, creating memories for them to hold on to. Surviving in your loved one's memories as laughter and joy is not only a gift to them, but also a way to remain a little longer. Definitely explore your options first. Even if doctors cannot cure you, in some cases they can give you more time. Most people, including myself, do not realize that only a few years ago many cancers were death sentences. Now, survival rates are 80% and higher. There may never be a cure for all cancers, but tremendous progress has been made. Story 127. Depending on the type of cancer and at what stage it was diagnosed, it may or may not be treatable. If I were diagnosed with terminal cancer, I would not fight it and would want to live the remainder of my life to the fullest. I would also want my family to understand that it is my decision and to not grieve my lost life, but to celebrate the time they had with me. Story 128. No, because even if I survive it, it will drain every single cent from me and I will probably live the rest of my life homeless. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.